Hello YouTube! Today on the Naughty Librarian, I am bringing you my May wrap-up. I just want to get into it because I know this video is going to be super long because there's 12 books to talk about, so let's just get into it. I'm going to start with the best books of the month and then move further along into the worst books of the month. First off, I have Obsidio by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. And like going in, obviously this is going to be a 5-star book. Like there was no way it wasn't going to be a 5-star book for me because I love the Illuminary series so much. Like yeah. So this was like an easy rating going in. I knew I was going to love it and I did. I loved it to bits. It's so freaking good. Oh my gosh, it's so freaking good. The whole series is kind of about this company called Baytech, and they invaded a planet called Carenza, and then they've basically been committing genocide. And this book is alternates perspectives between what's been happening on Carenza and then what's been happening with our plucky survivors on the Hypatia, featuring Katie and Ezra and Hannah and Nick and everybody that we've met before. So it's just basically all of the characters are now together in one book. I love Aiden, our psychopathic AI. He was amazing in this one. And I liked the ending because it had like a little open door. So like they could go back to this universe and tell more stories in it. My next 5-star book was The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I thought it was brilliant. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But yeah, it's basically we follow Alice and she is on a quest to bring back her mother who has been like kidnapped, and her grandmother wrote this book of fairy tales, and it was Tales of the Hinterland, and throughout the book Alice starts to realize that the hinterland is real. It's a real place. And the thing is, all of these fairy tales that her grandmother told are real fucked up fairy tales. Like they're all this bloody vengeance and like evil doing, and like there's really no moral to them, and then they just kind of end. And the same could be said about The Hazelwood. There's not really a moral to the story, and there's a lot of like bloody violence, and then it just kind of ends. So either you love that kind of thing or you hate it. I personally loved it. I thought it was such an interesting book, so well written. I highly recommend. It is good, mature YA. It's dark and moody, and like I loved it. I just loved it. There you go. I loved it. Coming in at 4 stars, I have The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. It's like a fantasy witch story, but like with elements of Memoirs of a Geisha thrown in. We follow a girl named Tia who, in a state of despair, accidentally raises her brother from the dead. So she finds out she is a bone witch, which is a certain type of witch in this land. The thing that makes it very unique is that it's told in 2 different time periods. There is Tia in the present, who is recounting her life story to this bard who's there to like, you know, write down her story and share it with the world. So it's kind of Interview with a Vampire meets Memoirs of a Geisha. Oh my gosh, that is an amazing idea. But anyway, the other part of the story is the story that she's telling. So you're seeing Tia in the past, like showing the story, and then in between each chapter there's a little one of Tia in the present. And the thing is, Tia in the present is very, very different than Tia in the past. Tia in the past is like our plucky heroine who's like, you know, misunderstood. Tia in the present, she is like the villain of the story. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I want to know how it happens. Like, how does she get to that point? Because Tia in the present is a boss. Like, oh my gosh, I really like her and I'm so interested in her, like, story. I recommend, you kind of have to put in a little effort, but it pays off in the end. Also coming in at 4 stars, I have The Final 6 by Alexandra Monir. There's these teenagers and they're competing for a spot on a spaceship that's going to go to another planet so they can colonize it and save the world because the world is dying. It focuses much more on a romance than it does on the competition. Like personally, I'm a sucker for a good romance. Like obviously, I love romances. So I had no problem with the romantic elements of this. The only thing is, this book takes place, I think, in the course of like a 3-week period. Our main characters, Naomi and Leo, they fall in love. And I'm kind of a total sucker for their romance. Like, I love it. I love the whole, like, I'm desperately in love with you thing and, like, tragic romances. Like, I'm totally into it. The other side of the thing is, like I said, this takes place over 3 weeks. Like, how are they desperately in love? They have barely talked to each other. So that part was kind of like, okay. Like, I get it, they fell in love under, like, really stressful circumstances and everything, so that kind of, like, makes you fall in love faster, but, like, if they weren't in these situations, would they be together? That's the question I was, like, thinking about the whole time. But whatever, it's fiction. I can just pretend that doesn't matter. So, there are parts of it that I felt were, like, a little flimsy, but overall, I think pretty solid. It's a good start to a series. I'm really looking forward to reading that juicy middle book, because I feel like a lot of shit's gonna go down, so I would continue on with the series. Also coming in at 4 stars, I have Labyrinth Lust by Zoraida Cordova. The best way to describe this, I would say, it's kind of like if the never-ending story was about Brujeria. I really enjoyed it. It was so fantastical. Like I said, never-ending story. It's like crazy fantasy land, and there's all these creatures and other, like, people, and it's like really, really well thought out in the fantasy element of it. Like, the world building is awesome. Also, like, I really wanted to read something about Brujeria, which is like Latin witchcraft, because I hadn't read anything about it before, and I find it very interesting. And I liked that they had a lot of like the correct cultural aspects around it and stuff. I can't really, like, explain it, because obviously that's not my culture, but, like, I felt like it was more than just, like, I'm making this up so it looks cool. It felt like, oh, this is, like, has, like, a sense of realism in it, so I like that a lot. Also, side note, our main character, Alex, is bisexual, and I kind of like that they didn't make a big deal out of it. Like, the whole book isn't about her trying to figure out, do I like a boy or do I like a girl? It just kind of, like, happens throughout the course of the story, and it's just kind of, like, another thing about her. So I like that they, like, just kind of put that into the story without, like, saying this is a story about a bisexual person. It's like, no, it's a story about a person who happens to be bisexual. So I really liked that kind of tone it had. It was really cool. This was like a wonderful Fantasyland fever dream adventure, and I loved it. Also at 4 stars, I have Wind Witch by Susan Dennard. The reason I didn't give this 5 stars is because I feel like as one story is not very cohesive. Like, it feels like it's like 3 novellas that they mishmash together into a whole novel kind of feel, because there's 3 very different stories going on here. I look at it as just like a whole mishmash book. It feels really bridgy, like maybe nothing gets accomplished. But when you look at the story separately, it feels like a lot was accomplished, so it's like a weird feeling it gave me, so that's why I took off a star. I love the world building. It's a very rich fantasy land that she built, and it's just a great big adventure saga, and I love it. It's like exactly what I wanted. My favorite character is Aedwin, and he is such, he's just everything. He's like this grumpy anti-hero, and I love him. I really like this series, and I love the adventure, so I definitely want to continue on. I can't wait for Blood Witch. Oh, I need more Aedwin. I need more Aedwin in my life. Coming in like at 3.75 stars is The Royal We by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan. I read this mainly because I knew the royal wedding was this month, so I was like, oh, I'll be festive and read a book about royal weddings. And it's kind of basically like William and Kate fanfiction, except like the Kate in this story is like a plucky American, and she marries the Crown Prince of England, and then la 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 la. And it's like about their like messed up relationship over the course of like 7 years. It's messed up at times and it's wonderful at times, like any relationship. I think overall I enjoyed the author's voices. I thought this was very funny. I liked the characters. It had a lot of stuff going on for it that I really, really liked. It just, like, not my personal taste. Coming in at 3.5 stars, I have Moonlight Sins by Jennifer Armentrout. Yeah, I basically picked this up purely for smut. At least I'm honest about my porn. It is about, you know, a family with dark secrets and like unlikable characters because they're all shady and maybe they have dark pasts. The thing that Jennifer Armentrout does that's really impressive in this is that it makes you root for unlikable characters because they have enough redeeming qualities that you don't hate them. Like, you know, the characters weren't like wildly original. It's like, you know, the cocky asshole alpha male and the terminally pure of heart heroine. So very, you know, common character tropes. But overall, they were likable characters. The smut, very steamy and good, recommend for that. And yeah, it was average, it was pretty good. I liked it enough that I would read the next book of the series, but it's not like it's gonna be my favorite series. Coming in at 3 stars, I have To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. The best way I can describe it is that if I was a teenager, if I was 16, 17 years old, I would have freaking loved this book. The problem is, I am a grown-ass adult, so I could not relate to this book. Yeah, I totally thought this was a rom-com, and it has all of the elements of a rom-com. There's this girl, and she writes all these letters to the boys she falls in love with, so she can get it out of her system, and she keeps them in a hat box, and she's never gonna send them. One day they all get sent out. So now all these love letters she's written to all these different boys over the years have gone out to the boys. And now her life is all crazy. Perfect setup for a romantic comedy. However, this is not a romantic comedy, it's just a regular contemporary. Occasionally there's a laugh, but they're not trying for laughs. And I was like, wait, is this supposed to be funny? Because it sounds funny, but it wasn't funny. It does tackle an important issue of slut shaming because that's a prevalent theme throughout the book. And that's so destructive, and I like that they touched on it and showed how destructive it is. My main problem was our main male lead, Peter, and his reaction to it. Lara Jean is our protagonist, Peter is her boyfriend, and people start slut-shaming her. And he does nothing to stop it. And his whole reaction was well, I didn't tell him they did that. It's everyone's calling your girlfriend a slut and a whore and all these mean things. Maybe you could, I don't know, stand up for your girlfriend, but he does none of that. He just kind of takes the hands-off thing. It's well, I wasn't the one who did it, so why do I have to do anything? It's not my fault. It's it's kind of your problem. You're in this boat with her. You need to help get the water out of the boat. I feel at 17 maybe I would have related more, but as a grown-ass adult, I'm fuck that guy. I'm not into it. I think, basically, if I was a teen, awesome. As an adult, don't care that much. Coming in at a generous 3 stars, I have Restore Me by Tahira Mafi. So, I love the Shatter Me series. And when I heard there's going to be a continuation series, I was so excited because I was oh my gosh, I get more of the story, I'm so excited. The problem was, this was what I got when I asked for more, and nothing happens. It is so boring. Seriously, nothing happens. You find out a lot of disturbing truths about Juliet and her role, her real past and everything. You find out a lot of facts, but action-wise, nothing happens except for whining. Until you get to the last 30 pages and then some really cool shit happens and then it just ends. That doesn't excuse all the rest of the awful. I really enjoyed the Warner chapters because I love anti-heroes. Now that I have his perspective, I really like him. It took me a while to be all right, I get you, Warner, I like you. For a long time I was just still side-eyeing him a lot, but now I'm totally Team Warner, I love him. Juliet was bugging the crap out of me, because there's so much relationship drama with Warner and she's so hard on him all the time. And it's girl, you just murdered his dad a week ago. Maybe cut the kid some slack, huh? Jeez. I mean, he's not being mad at you for that. You could maybe give him the benefit of the doubt every once in a while. I'm just ugh, oh man. I'm hoping the next book learns from the mistakes made in this one. This is just boring, nothing happens. It was oh, this is a waste of a book. Coming in at 2 stars, I have City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. I'm giving it a nice 2 stars, I'm gonna say, because this book really annoyed me. You know, the whole series kind of annoys me? No, this is just annoying, not kind of anymore. This was bad. How is every character in this book so stupid, all the time? They can't ever figure anything out that I have figured out immediately. And it's I'm not operating as if this is from an omniscient narrator. I don't know any more facts than they do. And I put it together, and they live in this world, and they're what? It's dude, get your shit together. It's if this was real life and we had to depend on these shadow hunters to save the world, I would be praying Elon Musk has stashed some spaceships somewhere because we all gotta get the F off the planet. Because they ain't saving it. They're too stupid to tie their shoes. Oh my gosh. Okay, Trigger warning for sexual assault. There is an attempted rape in this. Sebastian tries to rape Clary. Mind you, they are brother and sister, for real. Tries to rape her, and they never address it. It was just like they got in a fight. And it's like, no, that's not a fight, that's sexual assault. Like, why would you put it in there and then gloss over it? That like diminishes like the whole point of the scene. And that bothers me quite a bit, obviously. So, ugh, like this is the worst of the series. The worst. Like everyone is stupid. I don't trust them to tie their shoes, let alone save the planet. And they're just awful. Also, is it just me or is Jace like always possessed? Like, he's been possessed in like 3 or 4 of these books and there's only 6 of them. Ugh, they're so dumb. Like every Ravenclaw bone of my body just wants to punch them in their stupid faces. All right, coming in at like 1.5, maybe 2 stars. The worst book I read this month was A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I realize this might be an unpopular opinion because everyone loves this book. Like on Goodreads, everyone loved it. And I was like, did I read the same book as everyone else? Because this was god-awful. It was so boring. I have a lot of feels about this book. I'm just gonna do a whole rant video so you can just find out all of my rant. But I don't want to get into it here. It's just like, ugh. It's just bad. It's boring. Like it was so dull. Like how do people like this? Like I couldn't, like it is really long. It's like 600 pages of boring. Like I couldn't deal. Kind of ending that like this wrap up on a sour note, but too late now. Okay, let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books. Which one's your favorites and least favorites? I want to know what you thought about them. Hey, what did you read in May? Leave it down below in the comments. I want to know. I want to like know your secrets. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. And if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon.